Good morning. It is Friday, August 23rd. Yes. I remember this day because as far as my memory reminds me, it's the first day I ever came to India a few years ago. So I always remember this time of the year. And as I was coming to your school, I observed two groups of people. And we're talking about habits this morning. And the first group of people are probably standing back there. They're all wearing white trousers, beautifully pressed, very clean, all having different colored but shirts that look like yours. Some were blue, one was green, and they were moving together. And they all had a black backpack on. Nothing in their hands. They were just casually, comfortably walking to Mount Carmel School. And they seemed to enjoy each other's presence. Some were talking, some were listening, but they were moving together. I thought that's a good picture. They're on time, they're comfortably walking, they're not shouting, fighting. They seem to be actually engaged in something meaningful. About maybe 7 minutes later, I saw the little ones. I saw two wearing shorts. And one had a backpack on, and one had his father carrying two bags in front, walking quite quickly, and the two like little ducklings chasing after dad. And that is Mount Carmel School, where you are developing habits, discipline, self-discipline. You're learning, you all have strategies of survival. You all know what you have to do in the morning, whether it's mom who wakes you up or it's you yourself, whether it's an alarm clock. So those are habits. And some are good habits and some you must change. So this morning, what I enjoyed in both groups, because they were going to Mount Carmel School, they were both going to be on time, and they were both happy to be coming, it looked like. Some were speaking, and some were listening. One habit I encourage you, and I will continue to do so, is to learn to listen. What is your habit of listening? Some say there's a lot of noise and sound, but we hear it, but we don't listen to it. Others say there's passive listening, where you are a bit engaged, you are following, but your mind might be somewhere else. And then there is active listening, which may be in your body language, maybe in your eye contact, but you're very much a part of the conversation, you're engaged, and you will interrupt in the right places. You'll say, really? No. And you might do that in your own language. Acha? Oh. In Japan, any language, lots of sounds, but it knows you are engaged. And then in that engagement of listening, you often will throw out who, what, when, where, why, how. You, the listener, will guide the conversation. You will learn to keep that person engaged with you. Jesus was a master. Jesus was a master speaker, but he was also a master listener. Now I want to say this before we go on. Do you know what you're singing? I mean, these songs we just sang, there's a certain theme in that there's a river we're going to cross. Did you know that? Do you even know how to swim? Some of you don't. There's this river. At the end of life, there's a river we cross. It's like, huh? It's an image. It's an image that we need, and to be a good listener, you need the big picture. To develop good habits, you need to know the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. What is this river at the end of our life? Well, there's a river at the beginning, in the beginning of time, so to speak, in the history of God and His people, where there was an enemy behind chasing. And they came to a river, and there was no possible way to cross that river. There was maybe 1 million people they had to cross, and these were soldiers on horses coming from behind. They cried out to God. They asked God, "Can you hear us? We are listening." And God answered them, and He separated that river and made it into dry land. And they crossed on foot. And there was this massive wall, like these two buildings. Imagine that's water straight up. And you walk right through, carefully, safely. That is one of the rivers you'll see in the Bible. And then the enemy comes chasing you. And just when they're where you are, God closes the water in on them. At the end of time, you and I, what's the big picture? You were born, you live, you study, you get married, you have more children, they go to school, they do the same thing you did, you get older, you're working, you're a grandparent, congratulations, now you have grandchildren, they're at Mount Carmel school too, and it goes again and again and again, and then you die. Is that the big picture? You're born and you die. Is that it? No. Before you were born, planet Earth was very much happening. Before planet Earth ever happened, something else was happening. You go to the beginning of time, and God was there. In the beginning, God. That's the big picture. He was there in the beginning, and He's going to be there at the end. And we, for a season of history, get a chance to grow up in the 21st century in India, in Mount Carmel School, and here the battle begins. Jesus, one of His habits, it says, very early in the morning. Do you like morning? What is your habit very early in the morning? How do you get up? How do you anticipate a new day? With joy, sorrow, sadness, noise, music, mom, dad, brothers? It's different for every one of us. For Jesus, this was His day. And in the early morning, while it was still dark, He arose and went out and departed to a lonely place and was praying there. He got up. He left the noise of his home or whoever he was staying with. He departed alone. He found a place, quiet, and he listened to his Father. You have prayed this morning, Our Father in heaven. He actually talks to us. Do you listen to Him? Jesus created that habit in His life. It doesn't have to be in the early morning. It can be in the afternoon. But some of the ingredients are He wanted to be there because He needed to be reminded of the big picture. He's there. He had had a very busy day that before. He had been healing the sick. He had been casting out devils. There is a supernatural battle on planet Earth, let me tell you. There is a God of the universe, and there are enemies of the living God. And we seem to be the soldiers and the farmers and the athletes in the middle of all of this. Jesus had a very busy day, slept, he got up in the morning, His friends were also near there. They woke up, they look over, Jesus' bed is empty. So they go out. It says here, Simon and his companions hunted for him. Hunted, like a scavenger hunt. They went out, look, he wasn't easy to find. Jesus knew quiet places. Jesus knew where he would not be interrupted. Jesus wanted to listen to his Father in heaven. So they find him. Everyone is looking for you. That's what his friends say. Jesus, everyone is looking for you. This is in the book of Mark, chapter 1. You can read it. One case. He's with his group. They're having these great meetings. People are being healed. He's saving people from their sins. And then his friends, James and John, say, you know, somebody over at Carmel Convent is doing the same thing. Should we strike them down with a lightning bolt? Because you're the best. And Jesus said, you don't know what you're saying. We celebrate that that's happening over there. We don't ask God to send lightning bolts down. Another one. Jesus is explaining the purpose of his life, the reason he came to earth to his friends. He says, I'm going to Jerusalem. They're going to tie me up, and they're going to crucify me, and I'm going to die. And his best friend says, may it never be, Jesus. No. Wrong story. You're too good a person. That would never happen. And Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. And you go, what is this? Excuse me? He's telling his friend, he said, you don't know the spirit that is talking to you. This is necessary that you might have life. Last story, the same Peter. Peter, by this time, says, I will die with you. Timothy says the same, his young doubting Thomas says the same, we will die with you. And he says, oh really? He says, look at this, the big picture, cosmic battle, God, enemy. He says, Satan, Peter, has demanded permission to sift you like wheat. But I prayed that the Father, when you return, you will be feeding others. Life is not going to be easy, Peter. Listen to the Father. Listen to me. Gain this habit of listening. I'll conclude with this encouragement. Jesus may have even prayed this for himself. One of my favorite Psalms, Psalm 27. It talks about listening and waiting. And let me just read it to you. Teach me thy way, O Lord, and lead me in a level path because of my enemies. Do not deliver me over to the desire of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, and such as breathe out violence. This prayer is from somebody like you and me. Life is not easy, but you ask for God for a level path. I would have despaired, it says, unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. I would have given up. I would have said, this is too difficult, unless I had believed that I would see right now, living, not when I'm dead, not crossing some river, right now, the goodness of the Lord. And then it says, wait for the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage. Yes, wait for the Lord. And that waiting means listening. You're waiting for him. So you do that today, and then you will learn more the meaning of what it is that Jesus has set me free. Have a great day. Be blessed. Enjoy.